Welcome to the Madison Miller podcast. I know it's been a little less than a week since you guys have last heard from me. The weekday regular shows are on a hiatus until early next month. So once a week, I'll come on and do some hot takes. And maybe there'll be a couple of shows with some guests as well about events that are coming in the near future. So I have a lot of topics written down, one per sport and a couple of TV and pop culture and some politics or political stuff as well regarding to the 2024 election, but we'll save that for last. And we're going to start with sports hottest takes. We're going to start in Major League Baseball. The hottest take right now for me in baseball involved 5-11 New York Yankees. They are in a free fall, and they've only won like 5 or 6 games in the last 3 weeks, which is an unmitigated disaster. Everybody has rightfully criticized Aaron Boone, Brian Cashman, and even the players to some degree. But my hottest take is one that should be said. The Yankees' problems are fixable. I think people forgot that the trade deadline is a thing. I think too many people are ignoring the trade deadline. And even some people are even saying that they should be a seller, which is ridiculous, considering that you have Juan Soto and Aaron Judge on your team. You're about 6 games up in the loss column on the last wild card. And you should just still go for it. And even Brian Cashman came out today and said something that I think is interesting. He says that the team has areas to improve upon and will be open-minded ahead of July 30th trade deadline. He's saying all the right things. And he better own up to his word. And I got to praise Brian Cashman for speaking to the media through trying times for the franchise. Meanwhile, other New York general managers, such as even Leon Rose of the Knicks, who refuses to speak to the media when their things are going good or bad. You make a big trade for Mikal Bridges, don't say a freaking peep into the media. You lose as a big favorite to Indiana in round 2, mainly because of injury. Don't say a peep. Meanwhile, Brian Cashman, good or bad, always speaks to the media. And that's something I gotta give him some credit for, and some other GMs in this town don't do. But yeah, the Yankees' problems are fixable. They can upgrade at one of the infield spots. I know they have their shortstop in Volpe, who's in a big slump right now. I think his slump has contributed to the team slump. First base, Ben Rice has been a nice little story, but to me that kind of feels Luke Voitish. But I'm not suggesting that they should get a first baseman at the trade deadline. But I feel like long-term, that's a Luke Voitish kind of situation, where a guy just comes up and is awesome and helps carry the team for a little bit. I think Ben Rice will continue to play well for the next several weeks. I look at third base, that's fixable. Second base is even fixable. They had Gleyber Torres come back from injury, but I still don't trust him as a second baseman. He's a defensive liability. To me, he's a DH. So they can look at 2 infield positions. I think the bullpen needs to be upgraded at all costs. I understand there's a ton of injuries in the bullpen right now. But I think they could use a couple of relievers. Granted that some of them can come in package deals and some of them you can just get cheap. And then they could even use a starter because Carlos Rodon and Luis Gil, who both got off to great starts this season, have regressed, and that also factored into the team's regression. So those 3 players I brought up, Anthony Volpe, Carlos Rodon, and Luis Gil, to me are the 3 players most responsible for this downward spiral. I mean, you could argue Gleyber Torres too, but he's been bad the whole season. Giancarlo Stanton, you can make a case, but he got injured. You can make a case if he didn't get injured, the downward spiral isn't this bad. because Giancarlo Stanton had 17 home runs before he got hurt. He was playing well. So, yeah, the Yankee problems I think are fixable because of the trade deadline. And you still have another 2.5 months left after the season, after the All-Star break. And nobody needs the All-Star break more than the New York Yankees do. So they could get some guys healthy, make some trades, hopefully get in the right mindset. And like I said, they deserve all the criticism in the world, but their problems are fixable because of the trade deadline. Okay, next up, the NBA. So the NBA is in an interesting spot right now. Free agency is pretty much done. And now we just wait on the Olympics, which we'll have an Olympic preview and predictions show within the next few weeks as well. So just looking around the league, I see a lot of teams gotten better and a lot of teams have gotten worse. So in the East, the Knicks got better. The Celtics are still the Celtics. The Raptors are going to be bad. The Nets are going to be awful. The Sixers obviously got better. The Bulls got worse. The Pacers are getting better because they get Mathurin back. I think too many people are sleeping on them. Detroit even got a little better with Tobias Harris, even though they're still going to stink. Cleveland has a new coach. Milwaukee, to me, got worse. Orlando's better with KCP. Miami probably is a little worse because they lost Caleb Martin. Atlanta's worse because they got rid of Murray. You have Charlotte, who I think is going to be bad. And you have the Wizards, who are going to be awful. The West. I think the LA teams both got worse. Golden State got worse. Although you could argue they remain the same. But I think that that's a team in decline. Draymond's not the same. They lose Clay. Wiggins stinks. And they just are a one-man wrecking crew to me. With a really good head coach. Phoenix, I think, is about the same. Sacramento got better with DeRozan. San Antonio's better with Chris Paul and Harrison Barnes. The Rockets are better because you're going to see growth from those guys. The Mavericks are probably better with Klay Thompson, despite losing Derrick Jones Jr. and Hardaway, who barely played for them. The Pelicans, to me, got better with Murray, but not marginally better. The Grizzlies are automatically going to be better with the return of John Morant. And then that last division, I'm going to get to the team I'm going to talk about in a second. Minnesota, I like the Dillingham thing for them. So you could make a case they're better, although they do lose Kyle Anderson. Portland's going to be bad. Utah, Lauri Markkanen has been the talk of the summer for these last couple weeks from a trade standpoint, but they're probably going to wait till February to move him. I predicted before the offseason that they were going to hold on to him at least through the summer. So that looks like a good prediction right now. Oklahoma City, to me, is the team to beat in the West. And the Denver Nuggets is where I want to talk about. My hottest take involves them. They obviously got worse this summer with losing KCP. Jamal Murray's not extended yet. That's a problem. And they're obviously relying on a lot of young guys, and they haven't picked up any meaningful free agents. So my hottest take for the Denver Nuggets. In 1 year from now, we're going to be talking about Nikola Jokic like how you were talking about Giannis last summer. He might be available for trade. And maybe they're going to make that panic move, trade for a star like Milwaukee did with Dame. But who is that for Denver? You know what I mean? Like, can you just totally see them trading like Porter and some other stuff to get a Porter and a bunch of picks to get like a big star that could be available in a trade. Like, you just totally see them doing that. So, yeah, Denver to me is the team to look out for. They obviously gotten worse. And to me, they're the Western Conference's version of Milwaukee at this point. And to me, Jokic had the title for best player in the league. Not anymore. I'm sorry. That title belongs to Mr. Luka Doncic, who was almost pretty much a one-man wrecking crew taking the Mavericks to the NBA Finals. Although Kyrie was a big help, and the role guys were a big help. But he proved why he should have been the league MVP this past season instead of Jokic by carrying his team to the NBA Finals. So my take is that if the Nuggets don't make the Finals next year, we're going to be talking about the Nuggets as a panic trade team, or they might be on the clock with Jokic. It's just that something that is shocking to hear, but that's my hottest NBA take right now. All right, now move on to the NHL. A lot of teams did good work in the offseason with free agency and such. I think that the East is pretty much wide open. The Panthers just won the Cup, so they did lose Montour. The Rangers, to me, remain the same, adding Riley Smith. They didn't get marginally better, or on the flip side, marginally worse either. To me, they're about the same. New Jersey's improved. That might be a team I might look at to win the Metro Division in 2025 in terms of a betting. So keep that in mind. Maybe I'll do a betting version of this kind of show next week and place down some, or give out some futures that I like right now. So New Jersey to win the Metro Division, keep that in mind. Islanders, to me, stayed the course. Carolina, you could argue stayed the course or even got worse because they lost some guys and they added some guys. Columbus is bad, as we know. Philadelphia, we'll see. They're probably going to be bad. Washington got a lot better. That's a team I looked to bet to make the postseason. And to me, Pittsburgh is the same. Staying in the East. Toronto, to me, is about the same. Boston got better. That's probably the second best team in that division behind the Panthers. Tampa got a lot better. Although you could argue Tampa's now the second best team, but they did lose Stamkos, who's the longtime captain. They're probably going to make Kucherov their captain now, but they got better with Gensel. He's arguably a better player than Stamkos at this point, but Stamkos did put up 81 points this past season, so you can make a case that's sort of a wash. But Gensel's a better health bet than Stamkos. Detroit got better. Ottawa and Montreal, to me, kind of just stayed the course. Buffalo, same. And now to the West. I'm going to get to the team I want to talk about in a little bit. And they're in the Central Division, so I'll do the Pacific Division first. I think the Kraken got a lot better. The Ducks, to me, stayed the course. Vegas, to me, really didn't do much. Same for LA. Colorado gets Landeskog back, so they're automatically going to be better. You also have in that division San Jose. To me, they really didn't do much to improve themselves. The Oilers, you can make a case, got better. And I think you could argue Calgary got better. Even though they lost their goalie, but you can make a case they got worse. And in the Central Division, the Blackhawks are going to be better. That's a fun make-the-playoffs bet kind of team. With Bedard in year 2. Dallas is, to me, going to stay the course. The Blues, I feel like, are a little bit better. The Wild, to me, didn't really do much for me. The Winnipeg Jets, to me, really didn't do much either. Utah has improved drastically. that might be a fun make the playoffs team. New owner, new city. They just went all out and went a little nuts. So that's obviously an interesting one to monitor as the season goes on. But the team I want to talk about and my hottest take team is the Nashville Predators. We need to take them seriously as a Stanley Cup contender. They went out and signed Steven Stamkos, Brady Shea, and they got one other guy in a free agency. And that wait a second, I don't even have the all right, here we go, free agency. Marchessault, I knew they picked up somebody else. But yeah, they loaded up big time. And to me, they need to be taken seriously as a Stanley Cup contender. You add those three guys. You have Juicy Sorrow in net, who's excellent. I know they extended the backup, so the AHL goalie they really like is probably going to be on the trading block. So that's something to keep an eye on. So, we missed one team, Vancouver. To me, they have kind of are the same. That's the team I was missing. That was at Vancouver. But to me, Nashville's the most improved team in the league. They have a great GM in Barry Trotz, who's going to make trades at the deadline. They have a really good coach in Andrew Brunette. I would put a future on them to win that division in 24-25. So to me, they're the most improved team in the league, and they have to be taken seriously as a Stanley Cup contender in 2024-25. So that's my hot take in hockey. Next hot take, the WNBA. This is the best the league's ever been. That's my take. You have Caitlin Clark joining the league with all the stars it already possesses, such as Brianna Stewart, Sabrina Ionescu, Alyssa Thomas, and even some of the older girls like Diana Taurasi, Brittany Griner. You have a couple of other young players like Angel Reese and people like that really have taken the league by storm. You also have a Nafisa Collier, Kalia Cooper, Chelsea Gray, Kelsey Plum, Jewel Lloyd, Aja Wilson, Jackie Young, Rika Ogumbali, Neka Ogumake, Jonquil Jones, Kayla McBride. But yeah, the league is going through a huge phase of stardom. And this is wonderful for the WNBA. And once their playoffs come, their ratings are going to skyrocket. And that league's only going to get better next year when some of the young talent that college basketball possesses this upcoming season, which I'm going to get to in my hottest takes. So keep an eye on that. All right, now we'll move on to soccer. My hottest take on soccer. The U.S. men's national team. Greg Berhalter is rightfully getting a lot of the blame. But my hot take here is that, yes, a new voice is needed, but the talent on the roster is overrated due to teams that they play on in the leagues that they're in. It's a sad statement, but it's true. And because of that terrible loss to Panama, Berhalter's going to lose his job. He hasn't been fired yet, but we're going to hear something sooner rather than later. But you just can't rely on guys like Christian Pulisic and Weston McKennie and Miles Robinson, Antonee Robinson, and even Matt Turner in net. Those are all nice names that play for big teams, even in the MLS as well. But they need more talent. And that's the bottom line. And listen, Berhalter rightfully is getting the blame and rightfully should be fired, but I think we're overrating the talent on this roster. It's going to be interesting to see who they hire. I think that the guy should be Steve Cherundolo of LAFC. He's made the finals in MLS 3 straight years. And I think he is a really good head coach. Wilfred Nancy of the Columbus Crew is another interesting name. He obviously won the MLS Cup this past season. Jim Curtin of the Union is going to be talked about. That's a name I've heard a lot. But the Union have been disappointing this season. Yeah, not all that's on Curtin. They've had some injuries. Their goalie is injured and such, but that's not a good look for Jim Curtin, and that's not, I don't think, what Team USA wants to see. A coach as high profile as Jim Curtin underachieve at the Union. Pat Noonan of FC Cincinnati, I think, is a really good coach and should be looked upon as well. And another coach that I've heard linked to this job, Jurgen Klopp, who used to be the manager of Liverpool. So Jurgen Klopp would be very interesting as well. So U.S. men's national team coaching search and see if they could get some more young talent, new blood in there as well. Okay, now we're going to go to the NFL. We're going to talk about a team that's always high profile because of their big fan base, and they're a big market team. They're in a very popular division, and they happen to be America's team. My hottest take in football right now is that the Dallas Cowboys can miss the postseason. Granted, the NFC is perceived to be weak, but at the same time, I personally don't think it's that weak. I don't. I think Philadelphia is the team to beat in that division with the addition of Saquon Barkley and with new coordinators. You have in the NFC North, you have all 4 of those teams that look to be good. Spoiler alert, I'm not sold on the Chicago Bears and their rookie quarterback, Caleb Williams. And Minnesota, to me, is more likely to surprise some folks than the Bears because of the veterans on that team and Justin Jefferson and the coach. And that team is 2 years removed from a playoffs and 13-4. So I think that's a more likely playoff team in that division. Green Bay is going to be really good with Jordan Love, who beat the Cowboys in the playoffs last year, and the Lions. So, Philly, the Lions, and Green Bay. The NFC South is obviously a terrible division. The Falcons go and sign Kirk Cousins. The Bucs made the playoffs last year, and they made the second round and were minutes away from the NFC Championship game. So they bring people back. So not crazy to think that division could have 2 playoff teams. And then the West isn't really that great. So maybe I'm wrong about my Dallas might miss the playoffs take, but not inconceivable. So, and in that division, you have the Rams, who are loaded with talent. Granted, they're worse without Aaron Donald, but they're going to still be competitive. And then the Niners, who obviously are just in the Super Bowl, and a lot of people still think that's the team to beat in that conference. So I just listed a couple of teams I think can make the playoffs. And then, obviously, you have that Dak situation with the little injury he's suffering right now. And then you have his contract situation. He sprained his foot. And then apparently the walking boot was absolutely nothing. Jeez. But yeah, so there's a lot of stuff going on with Dak. That team did not get better in the offseason. And the Eagles obviously got better. And a lot of people like the Commanders. I'm not one of them because I'm not a Dan Quinn fan. I like Jaden Daniels. But I think, I'll put it this way. I would have kept Montez Sweat and Chase Young if you were trying to be good this year. Just saying. So that's making a case for the Bears, obviously, when they go and get a full year of Montez Sweat on defense. But yeah, there's a world where Dallas misses the postseason. You just need 2 in the NFC South to get in, or 3 in the North, or maybe Washington surprises, or dare I say the Giants surprise in the East, or somebody surprises in the West like the Seahawks or something like that. Who the hell knows? Maybe the Saints and Derek Carr could flirt with 9-8, and you have a couple injuries away in Dallas, and Dak with the foot. Like, who the hell knows? And, oh yeah, Mike McCarthy's still their freaking coach. We're going to be talking about them in 5 months from now about Bill Belichick. So yeah, my hottest take in the NFL right now is that the Dallas Cowboys may miss the postseason. College football. There's a lot of talk about the quarterbacks, especially the ones that are going to be in the draft 9 months from now, or in the draft process 9 months from now. A lot of people love Shader Sanders. Give me a fucking break. He's not a top 2 quarterback in this class. I'd rather have Carson Beck over him and Quinn Ewers over him. I don't understand the hype for him. Oh yeah, because his dad's Dion. I mean, he had one great freaking game against TCU. That's really it. And then he had the nice little comeback against Group of 5 Colorado State. So, I don't get the Shader Sanders hype. He isn't even the best player on that team. The best player on that team is the guy that could play corner and receiver. I need to start getting into some college football research so I could get my predictions together come mid-August, with the season starting at the end of August. But I'll tell you what, I'm not high on Colorado. That's all I want to say. And I'm not high on their quarterback, Shader Sanders, either. I just don't get why he's being a popular bet on FanDuel to be the number 1 overall pick and being picked in the top 5 in some NFL mock drafts. That's all. Like, I honestly feel worse about Shader Sanders than I did with J.J. McCarthy. Listen, I wasn't a big J.J. McCarthy fan, but at least he brought Michigan down the field against Alabama in the Rose Bowl. That means something to me because it's Alabama against the Hall of Fame head coach Nick Saban in that defense. Like, that's something to be proud of. Shader Sanders has done nothing to that degree. And, oh yeah, J.J. McCarthy also has a ring in the sport. So, yeah. College football hottest take. Shader Sanders is not a top 2 quarterback in the draft class, and I take both Carson Beck and Quinn Ewers over him. All right, men's college basketball. This sport I feel like has lost its luster over the past couple years because they haven't had many marquee stars. like how the women's side had Caitlin Clark, and now they have Paige Beckers and Juju, which we'll get to women's in a second. But my hottest take for men's college basketball, if not now, when for the sport? Cooper Flagg is coming. He's going to be at Duke, which is one of the marquee schools in the sport. And I think that's going to bring a lot of juju back to their rivalry with Carolina this year with Cooper Flagg's presence. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure and expectations on Duke for the first time in a couple of years since they had Zion and all them. Because let's face it, Carolina, it's funny because Carolina and Duke were both decent last year. Carolina was better. The year before, Duke was the better team. Carolina missed the tournament altogether. And then 3 years ago, Duke was awesome. Carolina underachieved, but Carolina beat Duke in the tournament, and that ended up being Coach K's last game. So I think the Duke-Carolina rivalry is going to be back and better than ever. But you have so many good players going into college basketball, led by Cooper Flagg and Ace Bailey of Rutgers and Dylan Harper of Rutgers. And Rutgers is going to be awesome, and that's really big for my neck of the woods, that Rutgers is going to be a contender in the Big Ten. So, it's going to be fun. And if not now, then when for the sport. And this is their best chance to match the women's side with Caitlin Clark gone. I know they still have Juju and Paige, but with Cooper Flagg coming and the two guys from Rutgers, and there's going to be a couple other breakout guys that get everybody excited. And I think that there's a possibility that college basketball finally is going to be, men's college basketball is going to be in the spotlight for the first time in a while. On to the women's side now. As I just sat here and said that Cooper Flagg coming will help boost men's college basketball, I understand Caitlin Clark is a big loss for women's college basketball, but I don't think it's going to lose its luster because of her departure. I think Paige Beckers and Juju Watkins will still carry the load for the ratings in that sport. Especially Paige being on UConn and Juju being a big-time prospect as she is. But at least Caitlin Clark is in the WNBA. But the women's college basketball sport still has some big stars. And I don't think they're going to lose its luster whatsoever because of the presence of those two ladies. All right, Formula One. This is a hot take. Lewis Hamilton is coming off his first win since 2021. And 2 weeks ago, Gage Russell won. I don't think it's a lock that Max Verstappen wins the Formula One championship this year with a couple of losses. I mean, Lewis Hamilton and Gage Russell are both racing really well right now. Max hasn't won since June 23rd. Granted, that was a couple weeks ago. But, I'll put it this way. Max Verstappen is kind of like in a Yankees type of slide from a wins standpoint, because that's how dominant Max was. And now Max, in the Australian, he came in 5th. And the British came in 2nd. To be fair, he came in 2nd, which is good, but not good enough by Max Verstappen standards. He's looked upon as the Patrick Mahomes of this sport. And I know there's a couple of Grand Prix for him to get it together. But a couple of losses, I think, are a little bit alarming for Max, and I don't think it's guaranteed that he's going to win the sport or win the title this year in the sport because of a couple of losses. But I'm not saying Max isn't going to win. I think Max will still win, but I just don't think it's a lock anymore. All right, tennis. Welcome to the parity era, where top seeds tend to be losing a lot more often than not, whether it's due to injury or just flat-out upsets. We're in a parity era. And we just saw Iga Swiatek go down in the third round. She lost on Saturday against Yulia Putintseva. And on the men's side, we saw Daniil Medvedev beat Jannik Sinner, who was number one, but I think Alcaraz is the best men's player right now. It's either him or Novak. But I think there's a lot of parity in the sport, and the number one, especially on the men's side, keeps changing. But Iga's been consistently number one on the women's side, but she lost again here in the Wimbledon. So I just think we're in a parity era in tennis, and it's interesting to see how the Wimbledon plays out, and then obviously the U.S. Open coming up next month. So I feel like we're entering a parity era of tennis, so that's my hot take. Welcome to parity tennis. All right, NASCAR. It's funny that I didn't do NASCAR and Formula One back-to-back, but I should have. But my take for NASCAR is that we're entering a whole new era. So, in the Cup Series, we're getting all these different winners. I get Alex Bowman's been around for a while. We had Joey Logano win. Chris Bell. So, I'm reading off guys that are kind of in this new era. Ryan Blaney. I mean, Kyle Larson's the best guy, probably. Austin Cindric. Tyler Reddick. William Byron's another one. Ty Gibbs. Bubba Wallace. Justin Haley. Josh Berry. So you're saying like all these up-and-coming new guys. So NASCAR, after it's saying goodbye to some legends, like Tony Stewart retired within the last couple of years, Kevin Harvick, Dale Jr., Jimmy Johnson. Eventually, like now we're even seeing like Kyle Busch like lose his luster a little bit. Joey Logano, I know, won a race recently. And Denny Hamlin's another one that really hasn't had as much success. Martin Truex Jr. Like you're seeing like all these guys that were successful in the 2010s and the late 2000s kind of fade away in this new era led by Kyle Larson and all the guys I just mentioned. Oh, Chris Buescher's another one. Zane Smith, Ryan Preece. So we're getting this new wave of youth coming in. And even in Xfinity, we have a lot of guys. Shane Van Gisbergen's been hot in that series. Parker Kligerman, Jesse Love, John Hunter Nemechek, Noah Gragson. And then in trucks, we have Christian X and Nick Sanchez, Corey Heim, Ross Chastain's in Cup. But I should have mentioned him in like the Cup group. Ty Majeski. So we have these guys in truck that are going to be in Xfinity in a year from now. And the same with the Xfinity guys going the Cup. So NASCAR, new era for sure. All right, the PGA, so golf. I think the PGA and the LIV should finally just merge. A year ago, it was rumored that they were going to merge. And it just didn't work out as the PGA completed the $3 billion deal. And like I said, they should merge because PGA pretty much is a Scotty and a little bit of Xavier or Xander and then everybody else. And a lot of the Liv guys are freaking great. Like, I feel like Scotty would have had more competition if the two leagues just merged. And he would have had Koepka. He would have had Bryson. And DJ. And all these guys that I think would have been competitive with Scotty and Xander. So, on June 6th of last year, there was an announcement that they were going to merge, and the problem was that the PGA and the PIF, which backs Liv, didn't have an actual deal, just an agreement to eventually reach a deal, which hasn't happened yet. And until then, PGA and Liv are going to keep operating as complete separate entities. So I think they should merge. That's my hot take, because I just think the PGA, to me, is just Scotty and everybody else and a little bit of Xander. Meanwhile, the Liv guys, I think, would bring more theater back to the PGA, and Scotty Scheffler would have more competition. Okay, now I'm going to get into the TV portion of the podcast. I'm going to start with Survivor. We're going to talk about a season that isn't going to be aired until 2026, and that's Survivor 50. There's already speculation on the cast, because Survivor 50 is going to be all former players. And there's so many people making predictions for this. I mean, can we watch 47, 48, and 49 before we make picks for 50? But I don't think they'll put somebody in 49, then again in 50. But can we watch at least 47 and 48 and then make our guesses before just throwing out the entire big-time players from 43, 42, and 44? And even 41 for that matter. Like, let's see how the other seasons play out and then come back to this, and then we'll make our guesses. Because I just think it's too early for speculation, because 47, 48, and 49 have yet to happen. And obviously 49 is obviously going to be 48 and 49 are going to be next year, and 47 is going to be coming in the fall. Next TV item is Jimmy Kimmel's Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. That's going to start tomorrow night. It's going to be on ABC in primetime at 8 o'clock. So I think that's good that ABC's bringing that back. Jimmy Kimmel's perfect host. A lot of people don't like this new duos thing that they're doing, but my hot take here is that I like it. I really, really like it. And there's going to be several different pairings of people that will be partnered together. And it's going to be fun. And I know John Stamos and Dave Coulier are going to be partnered. And then you have Zach Braff and Donald Faison. Wait a second. This article I'm reading right now says that Regis died in July of 22. I thought Regis died in 2020. I thought he died in the COVID year. It was 2020, so that article was wrong. I was just going to say, I remember when Regis died, and it was during the pandemic. He died right before Alex Trebek. But yeah, I think that Jimmy does a great job with the show, and I'm excited for the partners on Millionaire. So I love the new duo thing. Next TV item, Wheel of Fortune. There's some speculation about Vanna White retiring and how she doesn't really like working with Seacrest. Don't buy that. My hottest take is don't buy what you hear from the media and the fake news. I think that Ryan and Vanna are going to be great together. I think that Vanna is going to stick around for a couple more years just to be with Ryan and just be there for him and support him and teach him the game a little bit. Not that he doesn't know the game, but Vanna knows it better than anybody between her and Sajak, but yeah, Ryan I think is going to be terrific as the host. I can't wait for September to talk about it. I watched Pat's last show, and that should have been an hour-long show. It was a half hour, and they barely even played the game. It was mostly like a tribute to Pat, and I understand it, but it was an emotional show, obviously, and so my take is that Vanna, don't read into the speculation about Vanna White. I think she's going to be outstanding with Ryan Seacrest as the second Wheel of Fortune. Last TV thing before the election. American Idol. There's a lot of talk about who will be Katy Perry's replacement on the show. The name I heard it floated around is a pretty big, giant name in music right now. It's funny because the Idol contestants had a round of her songs. I like the idea of Adele replacing Katy Perry. I don't know how others would feel about it, but I think Adele would do outstanding as a Katy Perry replacement. I think she would fit in with Lionel and Luke very well. It's funny we're talking about Wheel of Fortune and Idol back-to-back, both Ryan Seacrest shows, but I think Adele would fit really well with those guys, and I think she would have good chemistry with Ryan as well. I mean, who doesn't have good chemistry with Ryan? But I like the idea of Adele. I know there's been some rumors about J-Lo coming back. I don't know if she would come back again. Alanis Morissette I think would be a good fit. I don't think they're going to pull Nicole Scherzinger, because I think she's going back to the Masked Singer, because I just think Rita Ora filled in for her for that one season. I almost wanted to talk Masked Singer and whether Nicole's coming back or not, but we'll save that for another show. Rita Ora is going to be on live with Kelly and Mark on Friday, so maybe we'll get some tea about that on Friday, so keep an eye out for that. I think Sheryl Crow would be an interesting Idol fit. Shania Twain. But there's some artists that I can think of on top of my head. I don't think they'll go Kelly Clarkson or Carrie Underwood. I don't think they would go within the family. I think they want to pick somebody from outside the family, and I think Adele makes a lot of sense. And one last thing before we go, I want to talk election real quick. And this is not a super hot take, but it's a take that's being talked about enough to the point where I'm going to say my thoughts. Joe Biden was an absolute disaster in the debate. We talked about this on the regular show. No, and it's funny, we're talking about the Yankees earlier and how they're full of excuses. Team USA with Berhalter full of excuses. Nobody is more full of excuses than Joe Biden's circle. I feel like his wife, the First Lady, the Obamas, and this very, more small group of people, I feel like are the only people sticking up for Joe Biden and making up excuses for him. There's people saying he had a cold. Give me a break. He was just a flat-out freaking disaster in the debate. And I think Democrats, their best chance is for him to step down. And there are people in the Democratic Party saying that too. And obviously, if Biden steps down, that's bad news for Donald Trump and the Republicans. Absolutely. That is bad news for Donald Trump. But then again, Donald Trump did beat Hillary Clinton. Let's not forget that. So, just going to toss that one out there as well. So possible names if Biden steps down. Gavin Newsom, Gretchen Whitmer from Michigan, and then Michelle Obama's a third name. But I don't think Michelle Obama would do it, because Michelle Obama is obviously in Joe Biden's little circle. And I think she's one of the few people sticking up for Joe Biden. So, yeah. My election take is that Biden, the Democrats' best chance is if Biden steps down. And they replace him with Newsom or Whitmer or even Michelle Obama or even Kamala Harris to some degree. But a lot of people don't like Kamala Harris either. So, I think that's the biggest story right now of everything I touched on. I know Biden came out and said that he's not dropping out of the race. I mean, of course he was going to come out and say that. But it's going to be interesting. I have no idea when the next debate is. I want to say they'll probably have another one in August. And I know that Biden's been doing some rallies. And obviously Trump's doing a lot of rallies too. And it's going to be interesting in the fall what happens. And if you ask me, I do think that Biden stays in the race. But I think it's 70-30 that he stays in the race. So there you have it for my hottest takes edition of the show. If something crazy happens between now and the next time I record a show, we'll do an emergency show. Like if Berhalter gets fired, or if the Yankees make a trade, or if we have a surprise NBA deal we don't see coming, a big NFL injury, or whatever it is, I'll probably have an emergency show for it if it's something big enough to do. I want to have some guests on. Maybe we'll get a guest on next week. I obviously want Jeff Burns on for Haskell, but maybe we'll do 2 guests, and maybe we'll do hottest takes again next week with somebody else. So it was a fun time tonight, and hope to see you guys next week.